Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of There's No Crying in Podcasting. I am your host, Jonny Blackburn, and alongside me this week, as he is every week, is the one, the only...
Nick Alessandro, Puss in Boots, destroyer of the world. Best character ever made. Gonna continue it. It's gonna
continue it. Puss in Boots, you heard it first, folks. He is the greatest movie character in any cinematic universe. This is from Avengers to Batman to Star Wars to even the incomparable Mrs. Doubtfire universe, which spans over a 80-year period starting in the 20s. We're not going to get into that tonight because we have too much to go over. We are very happy to finally have with us our producer, Gary the Roz Elmore. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Wow, hey, Gary.
Gary, I gave you one hell of an introduction, and all you give us is hey.
Well, it's kind of like a sexy hello, though. It was like
supposed to be Roz, right?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello,
I'm Gary.
Hello.
I don't think I would make a lot of money on a 1-900.
You know, Nick, if you and I were a couple, our couple name would be Jock. If you think about it, that's actually very fitting for the show. Johnny and
Wouldn't
Nick.
Wouldn't it be Jick?
No, because you combine you have an even number of letters in the name.
Yeah, but
so
I'm
Jock,
3/4 of the show. So
are you now? You only do 1/4 of the work. I appreciate
Maybe
that.
Maybe it could be Ninny.
You what?
Maybe the name could be Ninny.
It could be Ninny.
Yeah.
I like no Ninny. He's not getting this. He's not following.
Numa,
it's either Ninny or
yay.
Jock. I like Jock better. I mean, if you want to go with Ninny,
we
then
can go with Jock. Jock is fine.
That's our couple name. Welcome to the Jock Show. Actually,
Welcome
that works.
To the Jock Show.
It works. It's a sports podcast. The Jock Show is fitting.
But you've already named it. There's no crying in podcasting.
You don't need to talk like a sexy woman, Gary.
No,
you're just Gary.
I need to be
that.
Roz.
You're a 33-year-old man
Nick.
with gray hair. Shut up.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
How many callers do we have right now, Gary?
How many do we have?
We have no callers right now because we don't have a phone for this show. But yeah.
What if we got a Google phone just for this show?
Nothing else. Like as a producer, that's the things you need to have set up. So Gary, we're going to have a very serious conversation after this.
But this is not a call-in show, Mr. Alessandro.
We don't know that. Stop talking like that.
No.
You sound really creepy, and it's not just to me.
Thank you.
Nick's really uncomfortable. Now I have
Nick likes this.
I've got an erection, but it's out of fear and awkwardness.
Fear boner?
It's a fear boner.
Okay. I've heard of those.
So, awkward chubby. So what are we going to do here? We're not going to talk about that tonight. Nobody cares. What we are going to get into is the wide world of sports. We've been gone for 2 weeks at this point, and we want to talk to you guys 2 whole weeks, and we want to talk to you guys about what's been going on. Nick, what in the wide world of sports has been bothering you or intriguing you over the last 2 weeks?
So the last 2 weeks are really intriguing for me. We had some really good, baseball stuff happen. I love baseball. We always talk about it. I'm the best baseball person in the entire world, so absolutely love talking about it.
Okay. Tim Kirkchin might have a different story to
write,
I'll
fight
but
Tim
okay.
Kirkchin.
You probably would win.
It'll be like that
dude.
scene in Happy Gilmore where
these fights Bob Barker.
Happy fights Bob Barker. No, but the baseball world's getting wild, man. We're getting in, 40 games in the season for a lot of teams, and so this is really where you see the standouts start to stand out. And right now, the Chicago White Sox. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Chicago White Sox are the best team in baseball.
Where did the world go? How did that happen? How did that happen?
It's crazy, man. I mean,
Seriously.
Here's the thing. It's not that crazy because if you've been watching sports and you've been watching baseball in particular, you've seen the White Sox draft extremely well. Not only that, but they've picked up some really good quality people in the free agency, and they've been setting up for this. The question mark with the White Sox always been is they've been injured like crazy the last couple of years. And they still have injuries going, but I'm confident they're definitely going to make the playoffs. That's going to happen. Right. Are the young guys going to be able to perform in the playoffs? I don't know. But right now, best team in baseball. We got some other things. Boston's looking really good. The Astros are back. I would put them in the top 5. They're, I think, number 3 in run differential. So that goes White Sox, Dodgers, and then Astros. So that's pretty impressive to me, at least, especially since we have 0 pitching staff and our bullpen is trash. It's like 27th in the league or something like that as far as bullpen rating for wins go. So it's atrocious. But, you know, we got the Mets coming up. The Cardinals are surprisingly leading their division. They're a decent team. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs. And the shocker, this is a real shocker for me. The West, the National League West. 2 weeks ago, we talked about baseball, and I said the Dodgers were going to win the World Series. The Dodgers are currently 3rd place in the National League West. The San Francisco Giants are actually beating out the Padres and Dodgers right now. So that's kind of shocking.
Is that surprising? I mean, the Giants have been one of the most dominant franchises for the last decade.
I mean, the Giants have been kind of shit for the last couple years. They're absolute dog shit, actually. They have one of the biggest budgets, but they haven't been great.
Okay.
By any means, I would say, at least. I'm a little surprised because, I mean, right now their leader is Evan Longoria. He's not
from when the Rays won the World Series back in the day. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
That's their dude, right? And he's 35.
Damn.
There's some other players, but it's shocking that they're playing as well as they are. I would say it's shocking, at least.
Okay, so a roster with Evan Longoria as its star player is making the rounds in the MLB. It must be either a crazy year or a down year for everybody. Are there a lot of injuries or something right now, to star players across the league?
The Padres and the Dodgers aren't playing as well as they can be. The Dodgers have some injuries, especially in the pitching staff, but they'll be there. It's going to happen. The Giants are going to fall off, I think. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm. That typically happens, right, at the beginning of every season. In a lot of sports, this happens in the NBA, MLS, NHL, all of them. Typically, there are a few teams, if not one or two in particular, that start hot, and then they just fizzle out towards the end, and sometimes don't even make the playoffs when it's all said and done.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I don't know why that is, but it certainly happens. That's why they say it doesn't matter how you're doing in the first half of the season. It matters, if you get hot right before the tournament or the playoffs starts. That's what they always say in college basketball. It's always the team
October baseball matters.
Yeah, that's right. March matters or June matters or fucking
March
January.
Madness.
That was what I was referencing, Gary. Very good. For those of you that don't know,
good job, producer Ross.
Gary hasn't joined us for our first 4 episodes because he is not the biggest sports fan.
I have yelled in a number of answers during your shows.
It was one show that you did that, and no one could hear you.
It was great.
You were in the living room.
I loved it.
Thank you.
It was great. We wanted you to come on, and we wanted you to be our Roz for a long time. For those of you that don't realize, Roz was the producer and behind-the-scenes mind of Kelsey Grammer's character, Dr. Fraser Crane, in the hit TV series Frasier. And Nick and I just kind of thought that would have been a cool idea to have our own Roz.
Have a Roz.
Yeah. So we're half of Crane,
Plus,
and Gary is all of
Roz
Roz.
knows a lot about golf.
Yep.
He does. So I'm not even going to go next. I'm going to let Gary go next. Gary, what the hell is going on in the wide world of sports that you've liked to look at recently?
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to talk about 3 different sports.
Okay.
Of course.
I can't wait to hear this.
Yes. Of course, the international hubbub over the face slapping competitions is starting as the season is about to get off.
I swear to God, if you were making this up, I'm
face.
There
is a face slapping competition. I understand. I know.
I believe that we believe that, but I just want to make sure. Gary, I can't see his monitor right now, so I don't know if he's looking anything up. Are you looking something up right now?
Face slapping is a real sport. You basically have 2 guys that stand at the end of a table and they slap each other, and that's what that is.
Okay, how's that going? What are the rankings right now? How the circuit? I mean, what do they do?
It's not as formalized as that. Mainly, there's a lot of underground kind of face slapping.
Competitions. All right.
The purses there are not as high as in some of the things.
What are the purses normally, Gary?
Normally, a gram of meth
This is like a Russian thing, Johnny. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but it's just like a bunch of angry Russians hitting each other.
I've seen competitions of people slapping each other, but I didn't know it was a league.
I have found the purse, by the way, for the 2019 male slapping championship.
What was it?
It's 30,000 rubles.
Which is about American dollars.
Which is about 475 American dollars.
Okay. I don't think that's enough money to have people slap me in the face all year consistently.
These are big guys too. These are guys you do not want.
It doesn't make it better. That makes it worse.
I know.
Even if they're also big guys getting slapped.
It's great. I like that.
I'm sure it's for the fans. It's probably a treat every single time the guy makes contact, but. I would hope competitors.
That contact is made 100% of the time because you're not allowed to move.
They don't. You can't miss.
You're really bad.
You're really drunk.
Hey, I might say if you're shit faced, if you're sauced out of your gourd, you might miss.
Yeah,
you might. Okay.
Also, in the wide world of sports, the cheese rolling competitions are beginning. This was a sport that was started in England, in which they take a large roll of cheese and you roll with it down a hill to the bottom of the hill.
So wait, so you run behind it and roll it, or you carve a hole in the middle of it like a tire and you put your entire body inside?
You kind of roll alongside it. You try and chuck it from the top of the mountain,
and then you do forward rolls down the hill too, or what?
It's they're different techniques for different people. Mainly, it's just to have a lot of fun.
I feel like this needs to be a video episode, and you plug in clips
have you
of
not
this
seen
happening.
This either? This is funny, Johnny.
No, I haven't.
Cheese race. Oh, they throw a roll of cheese down a hill, and a bunch of people run after it, and you try to catch the cheese, and some people wipe out, and most
do.
Yeah, but some of the falls look bad. Some people stand up and they've got blood all pouring down their face from bloody noses and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And they don't use cheese anymore, Gary.
They don't?
How do they use?
No, at least the big famous one is at a place called Cooper's Hill. Don't ask me why I know this. There was a pub crawl that I had, and there was a stupid answer, but the most famous one is Cooper's Hill, and they throw a fake. I think it's foam cheese because of safety reasons. The cheese that they had it reaches 70 miles per hour going down this hill. So
that's over 100 kilometers an hour for our English friends.
True.
For all our friends across the pond.
So as you can imagine, a giant thing of actual cheese going 70 miles per hour down a hill is extremely dangerous. And so that it's foam.
You think? Okay, so they had to change the name of this sporting competition though, because they're not using the cheese anymore, right?
Yeah,
so what
I feel
do they call
that ruins the entire competition, sport in general.
No,
I mean, I get it, dude. What happens to the person? What if they don't catch the cheese at the end? Somebody just gets nailed by a 70 freaking.
Why are you at the bottom of a hill when cheese is rolling down?
To catch the cheese.
It's part of the competition, apparently.
Do people stand in the field when they throw those big heavy balls in the Olympics?
Shot put?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
but
they don't.
Did you seen a rally car race? People literally put people right next to rally car events.
Right? That's the spectators. They're idiots.
They're barely on the inside. You know how many rally car races I've seen where some dude gets taken out because
a ton. I would assume. I would assume a shitload. I would assume that has the highest mortality rate of any sport in the world, if not one of them. I would think. I don't know, unless it's the Russian roulette championships. I don't know. Gary, what's the third sport you wanted to update our listeners with tonight?
It's a sport I recently kind of heard of and am pretty excited about. It's called lemon racing.
Oh, great. Do you roll a lemon down a hill?
No, nothing so prosaic as that. You buy a car, and it's got to be a lemon car, so a real piece of garbage. And then you try and race it around a track for 24 hours. The caveat is the car can't really be valued at more than about $500.
Okay.
And so the problem is not necessarily getting to the end the quickest. It's more of just getting to the end. So I'm excited to see that.
So it's an endurance race.
Yes, with a really crappy car that probably can't make it.
That sounds like a Top Gear episode waiting to happen.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
Grand Tour.
I guess so. So, Gary, they have to. How many? Do you know how many laps they have to complete before the 24 hours is up? Or
no, but I will have more information on that.
okay. Why will you have more information?
Well, I'd
on
imagine most cars, if you're talking about a $500 car, they're not making it that many laps.
Well, you have 24 hours to do the race.
So you can
if
work
it
on
breaks
your car
down,
and fix
can
it
you
if something
repair
breaks
it?
down.
Yeah. Yeah, most everybody does. I'm kind of into this because I'm going to actually be starting to do that. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I won't be driving it. I'll be sitting in the pit, smoking a cigar, being
So
awesome.
that's why you bought your car that's currently getting worked on.
No, that car is actually too heavy to compete because the 1984 Ford LTD weighs more than the maximum allowable weight by the Lemon Racing.
Well, it's probably more than $500.
Okay. So you're not
too,
debating
so-
that you didn't buy a lemon. You're debating that it just is over the weight limit.
It's not a lemon.
Yeah, Gary, when are you going to have that LTD ready to go?
When I do, I'm going to just fucking wave it in your goddamn face.
Will you? Because it's been like 2 years, over 2 years.
For people who don't know, Gary bought this car like 2 years ago.
Over
think.
2 years ago at this point.
January of 2019, I think.
Why are you telling people facts that prove our argument?
2.5 years ago, and I've seen the car once. And
One time.
It's just been in the shop.
That's all you need, you know.
It was a great. I loved while I was sitting in it, but
Thank you.
Never got to ride in it. But I sat in it.
Neil did.
You will.
Neil got to ride in it. I think he was the only one
Well,
of us.
lucky fucking Neil.
Lucky fucking Neil. Thanks a lot, Neil. For those of you that don't know,
Thanks a lot, Neil.
is a buddy of ours.
Yes.
He's a real piece of shit because he got to ride in the LTE.
Because he got to ride in the LTD.
I believe he's one of the hosts of that hit podcast. I don't.
Right,
Give a
I don't
Flick.
give a
Hit
flick.
podcast.
Yeah.
That podcast that has more viewers than this one.
Well, yeah.
True.
Currently, we'll see what happens. Though.
Currently, it's a race to the top.
It is a race to the top, and frankly, I don't really care who wins. Actually,
There you go.
that's the beauty of being involved with both of them.
Yes, I'm never stopping.
So, outside of the obscure world of sports that you're referring to, Gary, let's jump into golf really quick. What is currently going on? The Masters just happened recently. Is that correct?
Yeah, about 8 weeks ago.
Rather
Okay,
recently.
so it's been a while. What's up next? Who's number one in the world? Who's coming up? What's going on with Tiger and Jordan Spieth and guys like that, the famous ones that people talk about all
Tiger
the
got in
time?
a huge car wreck, right?
I did see that. I did. And apparently they're not pressing charges because he wasn't intoxicated, which I'm still don't know if I believe. But
Who can say?
who can say? Who could say? But what's going on? What's going on
He's
with
not
that?
playing, obviously,
Sure.
because
Yes,
he broke both of his legs.
His playing days are probably behind him.
Yeah, he's done. He's
old.
going to have to retire because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, he was already struggling before that with injuries, and then you break both your legs in a car crash. Like,
Well, currently there's the AT&T tournament, and I think that's over in McKinney, Texas. I think that wrapped up today. Today's Sunday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that wrapped up today, and then of course the PGA Championship is coming up next weekend.
Okay.
So that should be a lot of fun, and see who wins that. That's one of the 5 majors in golf, so that's a really big one to win.
Who do you think's going to win?
You know, it's tough to say. I think that I think that Spieth has a chance if he can kind of just get out of his head. I think that
He is so good sometimes.
yeah, when he is on, he is a really, really exceptional player. But I think that he really gets inside of his own head and just tears himself down. Like, you know,
He's been back recently. I mean, he has 7 top 10 finishes this year.
right. Yeah,
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so
right?
I think that's
Such
given
a
him
crowded field.
a boost of confidence, which is why I think.
I mean, and he was
might have
third
a
in the
chance.
Masters? I
Yeah.
think he was third.
Yeah. So I mean, he definitely can win it. That's why I would, if I were going to make a bet, I'd say Spieth. But the field is really wide open. It could be anybody. I would love.
Yeah, I
to
mean,
see,
Dustin Johnson is still alive.
I would love to see Phil Mickelson win another one.
That's never going to happen.
Why do you say that?
That man needs to be on the senior tour.
Phil Mickelson has a lot of number 2 finishes. I think he's got more number 2 finishes than almost anybody else.
Yeah, but I mean, he's out of the top 100 in the world as far as rankings go. He's struggled, man. Like he's not.
Well,
It's not going to happen.
He's got arthritis pretty bad, so that's hard to grip
like
a club.
he's 50 years old, like.
But he's just such a great ambassador for the game of golf. I think that
I agree.
Yeah, I think that he does fantastic work with that.
Okay.
I 100% agree, but just because he's a nice guy doesn't mean that he's gonna like. I just don't think he's just not gonna win one, man. He's done.
Oh no, yeah, I wouldn't.
Sometimes the greats die.
Yeah, I wouldn't peg him to win. I said I'd like to see him win.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Like he can, because Phil Mickelson's card when he turns it in, I don't know if he's ever shot par. I mean, like it's like going to be like a bogey, double bogey, eagle, birdie, double, triple bogey. It's just like he goes for it, which is always fun to watch.
Shooting shit off of cart pass and like decks and stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah. Because I think it was it the PGA Championship of like 2012 when he hit that guy's watch and he broke it?
Yeah, the Rolex.
The guy just had a regular watch, and he went over and he was like, "Hey, I'm sorry I broke your watch," and he gave him his Rolex.
Yeah,
and just a real classy guy.
I'd like to get hit by a ball by Mickelson.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd want that actually, because that would.
I mean, as long as it didn't hit me in like
the
head.
I still think it would hurt a lot. Why would you want that?
Do you remember that time you tried to throw a golf ball and you like threw your arm out?
Yeah, and then the time you tried to do the Happy Madison drive and you threw your back out.
Yeah, the Billy Madison drive is what really fucked me.
Yeah, the Happy Gilmore, excuse me.
That was Neil's bachelor party day, and I wasn't 100% sober, so
that's
true. You started drinking pretty fucking early. Yeah, you guys are pretty blitzed. That was still a fun weekend though. So moving past the world of golf. Kind of just to wrap it up a little, for those of you that don't know, at least Gary and I, we are based in the beautiful city of Austin, Texas. And after years and years and years of fighting to get a professional team, we finally kind of have one.
Yes, the Austin Ice Bath.
Soccer.
I'm not a huge MLS fan, but I'd go see a game if I had tickets. Major League Soccer.
It's soccer.
What? There's a fucking soccer league?
Yeah, you didn't know this?
No.
Yeah, they've been like Matthew McConaughey and a bunch of other Austin business owners and entrepreneurs and citizens. They got together and they've been pushing for the last couple of years for us to get a professional soccer team. So we officially have the Austin FC, or the Verde, as they call them, their nickname there. And they are currently playing in the MLS in the Western Conference, and they have lost both home games, but they are the only team in Major League Soccer this year to have won 2 games on the road in a row. So there's a stat for you. It's pretty early in the season. And the other day when I was listening to the game on the radio, the announcers were saying that the Western Conference in the MLS is quite loaded this year, and Austin might be the first team to make it to the playoffs in their inaugural season for the first time in quite some time. So there's some stats for you.
I miss football season.
I don't think that's going to happen though.
I don't really follow the MLS at all.
No, nobody does.
I thought it was
the Dynamo.
Why?
What?
The Houston Dynamo?
Dynamo.
He's in Houston now, so he's a Houston fan.
I've always liked the Dynamo, even when I was in Austin.
I like soccer. I love soccer when I watch the World Cup. I'll follow it then, but I don't follow even the Champions League, or I don't follow MLS. Like I
did like the Key and Peele skit where he falls over with the red card. That was pretty funny.
That was good. Soccer players are notorious for being the greatest actors in any sport. Basketball players are a close second.
Oh, yeah.
Those
LeBron James. Oh, yeah.
That not really LeBron James. I was thinking more of Vlade Divac or Manu Ginobili. Those guys were just probably the best floppers in the history of the game. And I love Manu a lot. I don't really have an opinion on. I don't really have an. He was. I don't really have an opinion on Vlade Divac. Whatever. I was one of the Kings to beat the Lakers in the early 2000s. So I guess I was rooting for him. Teams. Kind of. It doesn't matter. But anyways, the NFL draft. just recently wrapped up here a couple weeks ago, and I did want to kind of do a quick review on that. If you tuned into our last episode, we talked about the greatest success stories in NFL draft history and the biggest busts in NFL draft history. So it's obviously the season hasn't started, so it's a little early, but we're going to go ahead and make a few assumptions right off the bat. Nick, who do you think won the draft? What teams do you think got it right, just from your initial look on the scouting report?
The Cowboys. I think they got it right.
They did have a good draft.
I think they had a very good draft.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Cleveland's draft. I think that was a very good draft.
Mm-hmm.
They took a risk in the second round with the Jeremiah Owusu pick. He's injured.
Was he one of our ones that was he one of the ones that we actually initially picked to be a bust when we went over the list of current prospects?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And he dropped to the second round. He was, the 12th. I think it was like a top 15 rated pick.
Yeah. He dropped pretty far.
But he dropped to the second round. But I still think that's a solid draft. I think Kansas City had a pretty good draft, honestly.
Okay.
But they've been drafting really well recently. I mean, even without a first round pick, I think they did very well.
Yeah.
They picked up some offensive line people. Like they got a Cornell Powell from Clemson as a wide receiver in the 5th.
Yeah.
I think there's some decent picks there.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville, I think, did pretty damn well.
I mean, when you have the highest rated quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck to come around in Trevor Lawrence, it's going to be hard for you to have a bad draft.
Just that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just that. I mean, yes, right. They had, I'm not going to say a for sure thing, but he's going to do something in the NFL.
Sure. Absolutely.
But I'm more talking about the Etney pick, right?
Right.
The Travis Etney pick in the back half of the first round gives them a weapon that Lawrence has been playing with and Lawrence knows. So that's comfortability, right? Like you're comfortable with that player and you just picked him up for your young rookie quarterback. Not only that, but that man is going to be all over the field. Like he's not a running back. He's not a wide receiver. God knows what he is. They're actually playing him at wide receiver in the rookie mini camps right now.
Right.
Not running back, but that's a very interesting pick. So I think they did very well.
I think so, and I think I have to agree with you. Oddly enough, we Nick and I have made fun of the Cleveland Browns for probably the last
forever.
For the last 17 years that we've been friends. I would have to say, 16 years, whatever long it's been. We always say that Cleveland, where dreams go to die. Whenever a quarterback gets drafted, whenever a receiver, it doesn't matter. You go to Cleveland and your dreams die. But I will hand it to that coaching staff and that scouting team that they have actually done a pretty damn good job since Myles Garrett fell into their lap at number 1 a couple years ago, drafting quality role players over the last few years and then developing them. You saw what they did getting to the semifinals last year, whooping the Steelers, coming in at that 10-6, 11-5 record and absolutely destroying them. With an aerial attack. They've made some really shrewd moves. I've thought the Jarvis Landry pickup a couple years ago was the most underrated pickup ever. I guess in their franchise, really, because a lot of it was because he was on my fantasy team, and I realized how many points he got. He's a reception receiver. He catches in bunches, doesn't score a lot of touchdowns, but he gets receptions and he moves the chains. Anyways, I will agree with you, man. I mean, Honestly, I thought that the pick with Richard LeCounte out of Georgia, their safety, that was a position of need for them, on day 3. And this kid can bull rush and he can. He started playing 3-tech. I was just reading up on him earlier. He was a 3-technique defensive lineman in high school, and he's a fucking bull rusher at safety. The guy is a fucking middle linebacker but he's got the speed of a cornerback. So I think he's going to be. Yeah, I think he's going to be. He has the potential to be in a similar body type and role that Troy Polamalu played for the Steelers for such a long time. And I've heard a lot of commentators bring his name up, and so we'll see what happens. But you're right; they made a lot of good pickups. I think Owusu. We talked about him being a bust originally, but on day 2,
That's a good pick on day 2.
Yeah, that's a really good pick on day 2. You know what? I originally said the same thing about the Chicago Bears. I said Justin Fields is going to be a bust. The Bears. I said he was going to be a bust. After watching some more tape and stuff, and
don't start. He's going to be a bust.
No. I'm going to tell you this. I think he's going to be in the same realm, not quite as high, but he'll be in the same realm as a Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick kind of thing, where he has, or Colin Kaepernick or something, where he has maybe 1 or 2 good seasons where he's like, after a few years, he kind of becomes a talked about MVP candidate, and then he'll just fall off because he's got the arm strength and he's a running quarterback. Remember, I talked about this the other week.
No, and I agree. I agree. Like, he's got the talent. And I think we talked about this. He's got the natural ability.
Sure.
It really mattered on where he went. And he went to the Chicago Bears.
True.
Where quarterbacks go to die.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like Cleveland, where the Dreams used to go to die.
Honestly, can you name what?
Did you ever play the video game Tecmo Super Bowl? It was on the
with
Nintendo.
Jim Brown?
You said Tom used to be the Browns all the time.
He would beat the crap out of me. I'd try and play like the Cowboys or the Redskins, and he would just overwhelm me with the Browns. That's my contribution.
But like, I could make the Browns stat. The Browns are pretty good in video games. Like, you got Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham. Like,
you
just throw the ball and
or you can just hand it off to Nick Chubbs and Kareem Hunt and just just run every down.
They never stop.
Absolutely,
like in video games. But no, like the Bears draft for, I don't know, man. Fields, he's gonna struggle because Matt Nagy is an idiot.
I think that we'll see him possibly. Here's the thing. The only reason that I'm changing my tune a little bit is I saw that he had back-to-back seasons with a 91 plus PFF grade. And I hadn't seen that from a quarterback from Ohio State, but ever before. And so we'll see. I mean, maybe it's a stat, and obviously stats can be wrong. They cannot be foretelling of the future in a league where the players are bigger and faster and work harder than you, and everybody has the same talent level that you do for the most part. So you're right. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing. Is he going to work? We'll see.
Right. I loved the Tevin Jenkins pick on day 2, that offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. A lot of tape that we were seeing on him. Not that he played the greatest defensive lineman in the Big 12, because, the Big 12 is all about offense. It's all about those aerial attacks, all about that spread formation. But the guy held his own.
Big 12 is just trash.
But you have to think about it too. Regardless of it being trash, the guy only gave up he was like 2.5 sacks in 2 years or something. Like, that's just insane.
Yeah,
that's just crazy. So we'll see. I think they and then they picked up Larry Borum out of Missouri. And so they addressed the offensive line need, and we've all seen that a good offensive line can make a mediocre quarterback look good. Look at the Raiders. Look at a guy like Derek Carr. Not a horrible quarterback, but turnover prone and doesn't have the arm strength quite as well as some of his competitors. But he has pretty decent seasons statistically, because the Raiders have one of the best offensive lines in football. Ben Roethlisberger, one of the best offensive lines in football for a long time in Pittsburgh, especially in his older years. And we saw towards the end of last season when they had a lot of guys get injured later in the year, and then the Steelers started to lose games. Remember, what were they, 11-0 or 12-0, and then they lost like their last 4 or like 5 of their last 6 or something.
When they started playing real teams.
Yeah, true. They had a tougher schedule, but the offensive line started to falter and they started to crumble. So I don't know. We'll see. It's all up in the air. So the Bears and the Browns typically don't do well, and they always kind of have one good year and then kick themselves in the testicles and fall over for another 5 years. But who knows? Maybe it's about to change up in the Midwest and the Rust Belt. We shall see. God, anybody that you can think of that just drafted horribly? Anybody jump to your mind? Any team that drafted horribly? Okay. Why? Why do you think they? Okay.
Because the fucking Trey Lance pick. What the fuck was that?
I'm a little skeptical on that one as well.
You have the number 3 pick in the NFL draft, and you pick Trey Lance? Like,
well, in all honesty, who are you going to pick though?
They're turnover prone. Fields?
But you just said you thought Fields was you thought they're both overrated.
I think Fields might be a bust, but the upside on Fields is so much greater. Anybody can be a bust, right? You're thinking about bust, like anybody could be a buster, but like you're thinking about upside here, right?
Yeah.
Justin Fields' upside is much greater than Trey Lance's.
Right. Okay.
Like on top of that, like it's just a crazy pick, man. Like there's so many. I think there's better quarterbacks out there than Trey Lance.
Absolutely.
Trey Lance was one of my bust picks. Remember?
Yeah.
I said that he was going to be a bust. I still think he's going to be a bust. The fact of the matter is the 49ers are turnover prone as it is. That's not all quarterback. That's also because the scheme. Kyle Shanahan's scheme is hard. It's got a lot of moving pieces. You need to be able to make good reads and have good decision making. I don't know if Trey Lance coming out of North Dakota State is going to be able to make those decisions, because I don't think he had to play against defenses that had all these moving pieces. He was playing in a league of his own, really. So who knows what's going to happen? It's such a gamble for the third pick. I mean, maybe it pays off, and I'm an idiot, but
you may be
doubt
wrong
about that.
You what?
No doubt about that.
You may be right. You may be wrong. Thank you, Ruz.
Anytime, Dr. Crane.
No, stop it. Stop with the voice. Carson Wentz, they struck gold with him for about 2.5 years. Maybe he'll be able to rectify his resurrection.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. Yes, Nick, they did. They had 2.5 years of solid MVP caliber level play at the quarterback position.
He was injured most of the time.
He's been
Nick
playing
Foles
for
won
4
them
or
a
5
Super
years.
Bowl.
I know that. I understand that. Foles didn't come in until the last couple of games of the season, though. Wentz was the one that had got them to that top seed in the first 3 quarters of the year, though, not counting the year before that and part of the next year, 2.5 years. Maybe he'll be able to resurrect his career in Indianapolis. Obviously, the last 1.5 years he was there, 2 years, he didn't do well. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe realigning with his old offensive coordinator that was the coordinator in Philly when he was playing really well. Maybe that'll help.
Maybe
that guy's, he's coaching over in Indy. So I don't know. Maybe they'll strike gold twice. Maybe North Dakota State moves up to Division I. Probably not, but who the fuck knows? Yeah. But at this point, I thought the Packers, they were already in a real precarious situation as it was.
Packers draft was so bad.
It was horrible. I think they may have had the worst draft outside of the Texans, and I only say the Texans because they traded all of their number one picks. They had no picks till round 3, and I'm like, you traded.
They have nothing.
They made all these trades last year and then got rid of their top receiver to try to get them to the Super Bowl, and they don't even make the playoffs.
They don't even have anybody anymore.
They don't have anybody.
I don't even know who did they make these picks for too. I forgot. That's how long ago.
I don't even fucking remember. I can tell you that the Texans themselves. I was actually looking at a list for the Texans. They're there.
The Texans are so
okay.
bad.
They picked up Davis Mills out of Stanford. He had an okay career from what I recall. Let's see. Yeah, he's a former 5-star recruit. Said he's got a real quick release time, which is always a necessity when you play in the NFL. But he didn't wow anybody necessarily. A bunch of guys I'd never heard of. A wide receiver out of Michigan.
Collins.
Yeah. Brevin Jordan, a tight end. So they drafted a bunch of offensive players. Maybe Mills is supposed to be the heir apparent to Deshaun Watson. We'll see what happens with all of his.
That's going to happen.
I don't know. We don't know if Watson's going to be suspended for the start of the season, or they'll kick him out, or he'll go to, or he'll go to jail, or who knows?
He can't go to jail. There's no cases.
Well, we'll see.
He can't go to jail. It's not possible. He doesn't have a criminal case against him.
Oh, just because he made the inappropriate response. Okay, I guess. I thought a couple of the new ones that came out stated that he actually raped them. Okay. Well, that's true. If it was years ago.
There's even bigger news on that, but that's not what we're talking about.
Anyways, so the Texans obviously just shot themselves in the foot with, the Kenny Stills trade and the Laramie Tunsil trade and just a bunch of stuff from 2 years ago.
Tunsil, that was it.
But the Packers, I want to get back to the Packers because Aaron Rodgers has reported multiple times over the last couple weeks that he is unhappy in Green Bay and he will not be playing there in the 2021 season.
Yeah,
what do we think of that?
Good for him.
Yeah, good. I don't know. Is it good? Is it good for him? His team just went to back-to-back conference championships.
Yeah, because of him.
It's not just him, but mainly it's because of him. Sure.
The Packers have in the postseason, the Packers defense has been absolutely atrocious. Mm-hmm. They've got hardly an offensive line. Mm. They've got two weapons on offense.
That's not true.
Dude, their offensive line, look at it. Their
offensive line is rated as one of the best in the league. What are you talking about?
they always get rated as that, but it never stays healthy enough to stay throughout the whole year. So it becomes playoff time, and he is running all over the place, running for his fucking life, and unable to throw the ball. And on top of that, because they have no weapons, all they have is Jones and
Devontae Adams.
And Adams, right. That like you cover Adams, okay. You make sure there's no dump offs to Jones, okay.
True.
Like what do you?
I think. I mean, so here's the thing: they didn't take a position skill player until round 3, and they took Amari Rodgers, who had a really good career at Clemson. Could have been because of the system, or could have because he had Trevor Lawrence tossing him the ball, but. He did. So we'll see. Maybe that pans out. They've been talking about the Packers needing a number 2 receiver or even just a fucking tight end for years. So it takes the pressures off Devontae Adams.
Or
so they
anyone.
Anybody. Anybody at all. I mean,
can you imagine if they pick CeeDee Lamb?
Oh, God. And they had a chance last year, too.
Yeah.
Well, no, they weren't ahead of the Cowboys last year. Anyways.
Were they?
I don't think so. But if they had, of course, yes, that would have changed the fortunes. Look, when they drafted, because remember they drafted Jordan Love last year at like 20 something. Yeah. And CeeDee Lamb went at 12, right? To us, 14 last year.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah.
17.
Okay. So they could have drafted. They could have traded down. I guess they could have traded up. Yeah. But
up. That's what I meant.
If
up is down.
Here's the thing. If they hadn't drafted Jordan Love, I don't necessarily know if that was the only reason for the relationship between the front office and Rodgers to crumble and deteriorate, but it certainly didn't help. You draft a guy who, by the way, Jordan Love is, I don't expect much from him. He was kind of like a Justin Fields thing, but he just wasn't as talented. He was kind of a shot in the dark, and they should have been building around Rodgers. No. And so they draft a cornerback and then a fucking center. Okay, I can understand getting Eric Stokes out of Georgia. The guy was a good player, and you want to pair somebody with Jair Alexander and form a very solid secondary. The NFL is all about passing. It's an aerial attack, so you want people to defend the receivers. I get it. But you've only got maybe 3 more good years from Aaron Rodgers. Maybe 4, maybe. I mean, we don't know if he's going to be 10, Tom Brady level.
Maybe he's the next Tom Brady.
Maybe it's possible. It's possible. He just had an MVP season, so who knows? But you don't draft in a position that you're already strong in the first 2 rounds. They've already got a dumb Pro Bowl center and they've got a Pro Bowl cornerback. Why would you draft those as your first 2 picks?
It's dumb. The Packers are ran by the people, and it's showing.
I don't know if their front office really pays that much attention to the fans. I mean, but maybe I don't.
They don't
know. I have no idea.
Then what are you saying?
They don't.
What are you saying, Gary?
Well, he said they're run by the people, and he's like, they don't pay attention to the fans. Well,
it's a joke because they're the only team that's not. They don't have an owner.
Yeah, they're owned by just tens of thousands of people that own shares across the world. Actually,
they don't have like a real owner.
Okay.
They have a majority owner.
Shut up, Roz. God damn it, Roz. You're fired.
Thank you.
You are fired.
I'm free to go. Yes.
Yay. Okay, moving on. We'll see what happens. We'll jump back to the NFL draft. Maybe we'll hear some interesting news about Rodgers and Deshaun Watson when we tune in for next week. I'm hoping to
hear interesting news about Rodgers.
I am too.
Get him out. Get him out of Green Bay.
But let's go on ahead and let's jump into. I really quick wanted to jump over to the Tokyo Olympics really fast, and I'll explain why. Curious, the Tokyo Olympics just recently stated they will be open for business at the end of July through the middle of August to host what should have been the 2020 Summer Olympics a year later. Just for those of you that don't recall, due to the COVID pandemic that hit us last year, unfortunately, they did have to go ahead and postpone by 12 months. and they will be open. They are apparently not requiring athletes to be fully vaccinated when they come over. But they will be testing every single day. And Japanese fans, people that actually live in the country and the city of Tokyo and surrounding areas, are allowed to attend most of the events with social distancing between them, masks on, things like that. And by the way, they can't yell or whistle, but they're allowed to clap. They are allowed to clap. That's
like
all they can do.
Game, really.
Yeah, it's like a golf game, but the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to do at the opening ceremonies. That's going to be really awkward if they have them. But they aren't allowing foreign visitors to come to Japan during the Olympics, regardless if they're vaccinated or if their tests come back negative. It doesn't matter. Only people that live in Japan can come. So I guess my question to you guys is, what do we think about that? Where are we at with that? Should it be postponed for another year so all of these fans from all these countries can actually come and support their countries during the events, or what?
Here's the thing. Is the Olympics really that interesting?
I love the Summer Olympics personally. It's my favorite sporting event ever.
I mean, I know you do, but like, there's some of the track and field is interesting. The fast guys are interesting.
Sure.
Swimming, a lot of swimming's interesting. Gymnastics.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's so much in the, like, so if you're the Olympics, my point is, if you're the Olympics, I would imagine, I haven't done any research on this, but I would imagine viewership is probably dropped of the Olympics.
I don't know if that's true at all. Gary? Keep
Let me
talking.
check on
Gary, Roz is going to check on that because I am curious myself.
Okay, good. Like I said, I don't know. I've done no research on it. But I would imagine, I don't know. It's just not as interesting to me as it once was because there's so much other things going on. We have the internet. We can watch like other things.
Okay.
So it's just not as interesting.
Because media is so diverse. Okay.
Yes. And so because of that, I would imagine that they need to get this out. They need to have the Olympics and they have other schedules, right? Like
they do.
2022, they've got the Winter Olympics. What are you going to do? You're going to have the Winter Olympics and the Summer Olympics at the same fucking time. And then you're going to have, the Summer Olympics comes up in 2024, right? And so you've got, do you have a schedule when it comes to the Olympics? And all these places have already been promised the Olympics, and they build these giant stadiums and spend a ton of money building the Olympics. So
billions
you
of
have
dollars.
to keep the schedule. And so because of that, they're kind of forced into this play. I honestly think it's going to make it a little weird, just like everything's been a little weird because of the pandemic. I think it's going to be fine, though. I think it's going to be fine. I don't understand why they're not mandating vaccinations. I don't understand. I understand why they don't want more like other people from other countries because there's countries who have handled this pandemic not very well. I mean, that's a whole different argument, but like I wouldn't want a ton of different people coming into my country right now. I get it.
Sure, they're a tiny. They've had less than 8,000 deaths from COVID over the last year, and they want to keep it down. And they have a population of 125 million. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is, and they know what they're doing when it comes to pandemics. So I trust them, but it's gonna be different. I think it'll be fine. Maybe I'll watch more because there's really, I mean, I don't know. I'll be at home working, so
yeah. Dude, it might just be something to do. Gary, what were you finding on those ratings?
The ratings have held pretty steady. In 88, there were 22.7 million for the opening ceremonies.
Okay.
And in 2016, there were 29.3 million. So it's over 3 times as popular as the Oscars.
Well, it's also, every country in the world.
That makes a lot of sense, though, because the Oscars are boring as fuck.
Yeah, but I mean,
this year's were for sure.
It's had higher points and it's also had lower points, but overall pretty
stays
steady.
Pretty consistent. Yeah. Okay, all right.
I mean, I just looked it up too, and it did say that since 2014 they've seen a 6% drop, as far as viewership.
Is that on networks and internet streaming,
That's
or is
Forbes? I don't know. Forbes just said it has a 6% drop in total audience, like viewers in prime time.
Gotcha. Okay, so maybe 1.5 million people or something like that, or 2, whatever. Okay, well, either way, Yeah, I certainly think if you're going to be competing with that many people in close quarters, you should certainly be vaccinated. I'm still going to watch it. That doesn't bother me. I still love the Olympics. The winter, not as much, but I go goo goo over the Summer Olympics every 4 fucking years. It doesn't matter what the event is. In fact, Gary will just fucking come home and he'll be like, "What are you watching?" And I'm like, "Skeleton key racing."
Yep.
Table tennis,
marble racing,
rhythmic gymnastics, which is actually probably the stupidest out of all of the. It's barely. It's. I guess it's a sport. All right, whatever.
It's a game.
I mean, yeah,
it's part of the Olympic Games. It's not called the Olympic sports.
Whatever. So yeah. So if we're going off your logic, then checkers and shoots and ladders should be a part of it as well.
They could be in the Olympics. They're not going to be.
So dumb. So stupid.
They could be.
Might as well play poker in the Olympics. Let's just do it. Here we go. Playing poker. They should have dodgeball though. I don't know why they don't. But for those of you that they're going to have surfing is coming back. Different types of inline skating, and they are bringing for the first time ever parkour. Urbanized wall jumping is coming to the Olympics.
Is stupid.
I am so excited to watch that. You have no idea.
That is so stupid. It's like the Ocho, honestly. That's how fucking dumb the Olympics have become. I wish we had a video right now
to see Nick's face.
Like, it is so fucking dumb.
Parkour
like, honestly.
is pretty cool looking, though.
It is, and it takes a lot
I don't give a shit
if
it's cool looking. I could do it on YouTube. Like, I don't need to watch
you could not do parkour.
Yeah,
no, I'm saying I could watch it on YouTube anytime I want. Top 2021 parkours. But no, I have to see them run up a fake fucking wall in a goddamn Coliseum. It's stupid. The Olympics are fucking dumb.
You don't know that they're not going to actually be out in Tokyo running around like Sailor Moon or whatever.
I want pistol dueling to come back. That's all I care about.
That would be kind of cool. Would it be at 20 paces or 10?
20.
Okay. All right. So not the violent one. All right. I got you.
Yeah. The one where it's like airsofting, but dueling. That would be cool. Like, fucking Olympics, man. It's just stupid.
That's a brief rundown on that. So I want to jump in really quick. We'll do this real fast. The 2020 NBA Hall of Fame announcements and commemorations were in last night. From that list, we finally got to see Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, the big ticket Kevin Garnett, the head coach of Lady Bears basketball out at Baylor, Miss Mulkey, forgot her first name, along with a plethora of other well-deserving members got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Vanessa Bryant had a real heartfelt speech. She was walked up on stage by Michael Jordan, Kobe's idol for all those years. It was a nice moment. It was great. Duncan got teary-eyed and thanked Pop for all of his hard work that he had done.
Dude, that speech was so good.
It was. It made me tear up a little bit. Maybe I'm biased. I mean, we've got the Duncan O's, Gary, biased. Right there.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Gary, how many championships has Duncan won?
5.
5 championships. Good job, Gary.
Thank you.
Good
Gary
job,
knows.
Gary.
I've stared at that fucking cereal box for like 5 years.
It's been like 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
5 years for 5 championships.
I have that cereals box too. The Slam Dunkanos. I've got it up behind me.
Dude, we're gonna sell that for so much money in 40 years.
I'm not gonna sell it ever. It's just gonna be sitting there. I'm gonna get a signed Tim Duncan jersey. I'm gonna put the box in with the jersey
inside. It's not a bad idea.
Why don't you just buy a jersey and sign it yourself and say he signed it?
Because there are people that can determine if it's fake or not.
And that's kind of fucked up. Also, if you see my handwriting, like, there's no way it would look anything like.
He's not a calligrapher. Just fucking like sign it. He's just a regular guy.
No, he's not a regular guy. He's a large man.
The best power forward of all time is not just a regular guy.
By far, Gary, the best power forward of all time.
He's gonna write the same way.
He might do that.
Even with you.
Like if he was an English teacher or a librarian or somebody that had nice penmanship, I'd say, "Hold your horses there, sonny boy.
Hold your horses there, kitty boy. You kitty McDougal."
Sure,
whatever.
But no, I agree, Johnny. It was beautiful. Mm-hmm. The whole ceremony was really well done, and honestly, it's very sad we lost Kobe Bryant before he was inducted, but his wife did a very good job. And it's kind of what I would imagined this class to look like, right? Kobe Bryant is the flashy, great shooting guard, one of the best to ever play. Really comes out there. His name is all over the place. And Tim Duncan is, in the background, not getting just being Tim Duncan, but comes up with his great class and his great speech. And, Garnett is Garnett. Like, I don't know how to feel about him.
He's just a crazy motherfucker, and I'll tell you what. He's considered to be one of the most mental players to ever play the game. During games, he would get in his own teammates' heads and trash talk them. Like his own teammates. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
apparently he thought it was going to make them play better. I don't know, but he actually thanked in his speech.
Did you notice that he didn't mention anybody?
No, he didn't. What he said was, "I want to thank the fans." Especially the fans that booed me and hated me. And I love that line because it made him play better. And that's a fucking competitor. That is a person that deserves to be enshrined in the Naismith Hall of Fame. That's a person that deserves to be enshrined in Springfield. And I've always loved that about him. He was always more physically gifted than Duncan. Obviously, Duncan was a better player. But I do respect Kevin Garnett immensely. I really do. But that was probably one of the most star-studded Hall of Fame classes in recent memory for sure.
Oh, 100%. You have, I said earlier, the best power forward to ever play the game, a top 10 power forward to ever play, and I mean,
easily the second best shooting guard of all time.
Kobe. I mean,
yeah. So I really quick, I did want to go over the 2021 class, and there's a reason that I wanted to bring up the 2021 class.
Good, because I hope it's the same. I think you're going to bring up the reason I want to bring it up.
Okay, and we'll see. The reason I wanted to bring it up was Paul Pierce is in that, which I have no problem with the truth being in there. Chris Bosh, no problem at all. 10 All-Star selections, 2-time champion, 8-time All-NBA team player, whatever. I had to cut his career short because of a heart murmur. Same thing as LaMarcus Aldridge we talked about. Chris Webber. Yeah. Chris Webber is the one that I wanted to bring up. And it's not quite as bad as the Pete Rose controversy by any means. But Webber was never the player or didn't get that same recognition, at least because he never got to a finals appearance like Bosh did, like Garnett did.
Yeah, but he got cheated, man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They literally rigged the Sacramento Kings to not get in the final.
True, they did. I mean, Tim Donovan, that the referee that was reffing that series, he was saying David Stern wanted to make sure that the Nets played the Lakers. You have the two biggest markets in the league right there in the finals against each other. Jason Kidd against Shaq. They said that Sacramento and New Jersey / New York matchup would just plummet the ratings and they lose a ton of money. So I agree. I think that game was fixed. Absolutely. That's why
multiple years. Yeah. They came out and it's not even a question. They were fixed. The games were fixed.
Right. But so here is the other question outside of that, because that is a big one. But in this list for next year, you've got Rick Adelman. Okay, 2-time NBA champ, 9th winningest coach in NBA history. Chris Bosh, we've already gone over him. We've got Paul Pierce. You've got Bill Russell as a head coach, not even just a player. Yeah. But obviously still won 2 titles as a player coach, by the way. People forget with the Celtics. Ben Wallace, who would be the first ever undrafted player to have reached the Hall of Fame in the history of the league. Okay, this guy was a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, won a title with the 04 Lakers. He was only like 6'7", like barely 6'8". He was like Charles Barkley, but on crack. I mean, he was
a beast of a man.
He was ferocious. And then they had like Jay Wright, the head coach of Villanova, and then Yolanda Griffith and Lauren Jackson. I'm not as familiar with them. I don't have a problem with anybody on this list. The only thing that keeps coming up with Chris Webber is his time with the Fab Five at Michigan.
The timeout.
Okay? Yeah. No, not the time. No, not the timeout. Remember when they took those consecutive Final Four appearances away from Michigan because of all the money that they were taking from that booster?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They had Ed Martin was the guy that had
but what he did in the NCAA shouldn't matter what he did in the NBA.
It's collective though. A lot of this is collective. I'm not saying that he shouldn't. I definitely think Chris Webber should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, if they give consideration to, if they give consideration to guys that were 3rd or 4th options on teams.
I have somebody that brings a point into this. Okay. They do international committees, right?
Right.
So they have an international player who gets inducted every year.
Right.
You want to know which one got inducted this year?
Who?
Tony fucking Kukoc.
Okay, yeah, right on. I have no problem with Tony Kukoc getting in.
Bro. No.
Bro.
He's not a Hall of Famer.
Tony Kukoc has a very strong case to be a Hall of Famer.
No. In what world?
He's a 3-time champion.
Okay, so championships automatically make you go into the Hall of Fame?
Okay, so Manu Ginobili.
Because Michael Jordan played on your team and you had Scottie Pippen.
Is Manu Ginobili a first ballot Hall of Famer?
No.
Okay, is he a second ballot Hall of Famer?
No.
Third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Is he going to get into the Hall of Fame? Is he going to the Hall of Fame? Manu Ginobili. The guy who perfected the Euro step. The guy who, okay, you want to talk about not NBA? The guy who was the only player
kind of player than Kukoc.
It's not, and I'm going to explain why. He's the only player outside of the United States to win an Olympic gold medal in the last 30 years for a country that's not the U.S. He was the best player in that 04 tournament. You remember
Johnny,
that.
In Kukoc's career, he averaged 11 points a game.
He was a six man.
11 points.
He was a six man. That's why he averaged so low. The guy was a deadly shooter. He was a point forward too. Like he was so versatile.
Just no. Yes, I
just
understand.
No.
Like his 3-point shooting percentage was 3.335.
That's like for the 90s. That's not bad. For the 90s, it's not bad. He didn't take a lot of threes.
The only team, so he played 7 seasons with the Bulls, obviously, right? That's a biggie,
right?
When he played well, when he played well, was with Michael Jordan. When Mike left,
when Jordan left, he was an all-star that year with Scottie Pippen. It shows when he was in the starting lineup and had the chance to play. Same with Ginobili. When they inserted him into the starting lineup, they were both all-stars. When they took them back onto the bench,
he should not be in the Hall of Fame. He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Look,
we have there's a litany of players that have gotten into the Hall of Fame, a plethora, if you will, that have gotten in that probably shouldn't have. You know, and I don't know. I don't have a problem with Tony Kukoc getting in. I think that it's more than just your stats. I think it matters with how you revolutionize the game. I think Yao Ming was rightfully so a Hall of Famer because of what he did in his 10 years, not only for the game domestically, but spreading it internationally. You know, I don't have a problem with that. But that's not
what the Hall of Fame is. When you are inducted as a Hall of Fame as a player, I don't give a fuck if you made world peace. I don't give a fuck. It's how you played basketball. That's what the Hall of Fame is about, as being a player. Okay. You can go and cure AIDS. Like,
Jesus,
you shouldn't be in the fucking basketball Hall of Fame. Give him his own AIDS category, sure. But you don't fucking make him as a player. Like, that's not what it's about. Like, it's about, are you the best, one of the best players to ever play the game of basketball? Are you one of the best ever to play? That's it.
Right. Okay.
He's not. Even Yao isn't.
Yao is certainly not a top 5 center. Yeah, you're right. He's probably not a top 10 center. You're right. There's a lot of good centers. But I still think, I mean, if that's the case you're going off of, a lot of these guys come in as not just a player, but they have that hyphen ambassador, or they have that hyphen analyst or coach or scout or whatever they ended up doing, you know?
Yeah. Again, coach, whatever. Go ahead. Put him in the coaches section.
Well, Kukoc didn't coach. Are you just saying that because
it's
in his last
name?
name?
He should be in the no section.
The no section? That's not a section.
Exactly. He shouldn't be there.
I think it's the same thing it's the same thing that I've talked about with athletes, regardless of your personal opinions of people like fucking Kobe or James or fucking Steve Nash or whatever. Regardless of your opinions on those people, those guys have consistently gone out, as hundreds upon thousands of other athletes, and they consistently go out and they're bigger than the game, and they get into other things, and they help out the community, and they obviously make a shitload of money and may make some mistakes, but they do give a lot of money. They are philanthropists, and they help out the community. And I think that deserves to be in consideration for the Hall of Fame in every sport. It's not just basketball, you know. And I think that's where we differ.
Yeah, we will differ forever on that.
So speaking of that, and I do agree. Yeah, I don't think that Chris Webber's mishandlings in college should affect his opportunity for. But here's the thing with Chris Webber. Chris Webber had a really great 8 or 9 years. Like he had a good couple good years with Washington when he played for the Bullets, when they were the Bullets before the Wizards came around. He had good, 6-7 years with the Kings, and then his career was cut short because of injuries. He didn't even have a decade. And even during that decade that he played, he wasn't even one of the top 2 most dominant power forwards at his position. He played at the exact same era that Duncan and Garnett were at their primes, and Nowitzki was coming around. So you can make an argument he wasn't even in top 3. So it's hard,
I mean, he averaged 20 points, like almost 10 rebounds, almost 5 assists. Like
Antonio McDyess did too, and he's not going to go to the Hall of Fame. Like, I don't know. I agree. I do. It doesn't matter. I'm just playing devil's advocate. You know me. I agree. He should go in. But I don't think his is as obvious as people give it. I've heard people make arguments for him being a top 50 greatest player, and I'm like, what are you smoking? Chris Webber is not even a top 75 player of all time. He was very good. He was very talented, but he's not one of the best. It doesn't matter. Let's jump in really quick. What we were supposed to mainly talk about today was the top players at their position of all time. Nick and I are going to go ahead and go through the top 5 position players in NBA history. So we're going to give for power forward, shooting guard, small forward, point guard, and center. We're going to give our top picks and then the top 5 at each of those positions. So let's jump into it. Let's get in. Let's start out with probably, I would probably say this is, at least for me, is probably the easiest one. I want to start out. We'll just go by position numbers. So we'll say the 1. We'll start at point guard. Okay. Let's go. Okay. Let's hear. Who would you throw into your top 5, Nick? Who would be in that top 5?
So from 5 to 1.
Oh, you're gonna actually rank them. Okay, go ahead. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
I'm ranking them.
Rank away.
I'm gonna go 5. Chris Paul.
Okay.
Right now. 4. Steph Curry.
Okay.
Right now.
Right.
It gets tricky for me at 3.
Okay.
I'm going to put John Stockton at 3. And people are going to be, I don't know. John Stockton deserves 3. And then Oscar Robertson, and then Magic Johnson.
Okay. All right. So I don't necessarily.
And I know I'm leaving people out too, right? Like
you are.
There's so many people. That's a hard position to pick, honestly, in my opinion.
Okay. It is a hard position. It is a hard position to pick. I think for me, it's just a little easier. I think when you look at the point guard position, you have to look at a multitude of factors. That you can't just be good at one area. I think leadership and competitive spirit and how hard you work help out. This is not one that I'll add in your philanthropy and your business decisions. This is just pure how you play the game. I think some players are one-trick ponies, and some of them are other players stuffed inside of a point guard's body. A point guard is the leader of the team. They have to be able to run the entire show as well as keep the defense honest with a solid mid-range game or a solid three-point shot, but they also have to be able to defend, not multiple positions, but at least their own position and hold their own. Steph Curry is a tough one for me every single time. Not that he's not one of the best overall offensive players in the game, not that he isn't the best shooter that we've ever seen, and not that he isn't going to go down as a top 15 or 20 player when his entire career is over, maybe higher. But the guy he can't play defense. The guy is not, he can be suitable sometimes, but it's like James Harden, or like Russell Westbrook, which doesn't make any sense to me. The guy athletically,
Russell Westbrook
is so gifted. Russell Westbrook should be in the top 5 of all time. Let's just talk about the only guy to ever have back-to-back triple-double seasons is Russell Westbrook.
That's a bullshit stat now because Russell Westbrook, they specifically game plan around him getting the ball off the boards because they want the ball in his hand going up the court.
You don't think they did that with Oscar Robertson in the 60s and the 70s? They absolutely did that. Before Kareem came around and they actually won his first title, which was at the end of his career. He was like 38 when they won.
But what I'm saying is the assist and rebound the assist stats are solid still. I think he's good at passing the ball. The rebound stats are inflated.
Because they only let him go after them?
Yes.
He's just a hustler, man.
If you look at his rebounds, at least 6 of them a game are just gimmies, and they count as rebounds.
I think there are a couple, but I don't think there's 6. That's a lot of
Yeah,
plays.
look at it.
You also have to remember too
after
that
free throws.
Right. There's a lot, but he doesn't get that many rebounds off free throws anymore. Like that just there, you see highlights of that every once in a while, and he'll do a putback dunk or whatever, but he doesn't get a shitload of those because there's so many long range shots being fired up everywhere. There's going to be long range rebounds, and it gives guards the opportunity to go in. That's why guards have such higher rebound percentage nowadays because of the 3-point shooting. But I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I still wouldn't put Westbrook in my top 5. It pisses me off at how gifted he is, but he doesn't fucking play defense. It drives me nuts. I don't understand it. I mean, the guy, there's nobody that's been as athletically gifted at their size than him ever. I mean, LeBron's much heavier and taller, but the guy's just a freak of nature. He's a blur on the court, and he's basically a mini LeBron. I mean, you've seen how stacked he is. He's Superman, basically. It doesn't matter. I'm just whatever. Number 1 for me, it's hard to go against Magic Johnson, even though Magic had no outside shot. The guy happened to be 6'9" and had the wingspan of, fucking Giannis Antetokounmpo, it seemed like. And I've never seen a flashier passer and a guy that hated losing more than him, with the exception of Jordan or Larry Bird, I guess, who happened to be his biggest rival. I mean, Magic's always going to be number 1. Stockton for me is number 2. Stockton is always going to go down as number 2 for me. The guy was just... Okay. People don't realize he was a dirty fucking player. John Stockton was a tiny white boy that just got beat around early in his career because he wasn't super big and he was just a hard worker. He didn't trash talk. He was quiet. And they're just... Yeah, I remember like in interviews and stuff, the few ones that he would do, he would talk about how he would get harassed for being... he would just be like this small dude, and he wasn't really scrappy. He was just kind of talented ball handler, and he had great vision passing the ball. But he just got meaner and meaner and more clever and more clever. And the angles he took to cut through passing lanes and to steal the drive, it's just insane. Malone would have been a good player without him, but he wouldn't have been nearly as good if it hadn't been for him. It's like, Brady would have been a great player regardless, obviously. Did Belichick help him win some of those Super Bowls? Sure. Obviously, it's but
did the defense help win a lot of the Super Bowls?
Sure. Yes, sure it did.
Well, I mean, he went to a brand new team last year and still won the Super Bowl.
Right,
so I'm just saying.
His team last year was also stacked, and Bruce Arians is a very good coach.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying Brady is still the unquestioned best quarterback in the history of the league, and he's better than Belichick was as a coach, I would say. But it doesn't matter. My point is that, Stockton needed Malone just as much as Malone needed Stockton. Sure. So John Stockton, certainly number 2 in my book. As far as just, if you're going to go pure point guard, Chris Paul's number 3. Chris Paul's going to, there's nobody that outside of John Stockton. I mean, Chris Paul he's got a sweet mid-range game. He's an amazing 3-point shooter. He's got a really high percentage start his career, and he's one of the best defensive point guards the league has ever seen.
So good.
He's so crafty. It's just crazy.
He's so good.
I want to cry. I really do. Oscar Robertson would certainly come in as a 4, absolutely. Okay.
I'm excited for your 5th.
It's hard, man. It's so hard. I go based off of a classic point guard, what a point guard should be. Steph Curry is not in my top 5 of classic point guards. He's not. I'd have to go with Jason Kidd. I really would. I think Steve Nash.
Jason Kidd over like Gary Payton.
Gary Payton was the best defensive point guard maybe ever. Maybe the best defensive guard ever. But Jason Kidd did so much more than just defend. Jason Kidd, when they said he couldn't shoot threes, he increased his 3-point percentage to over 40% the next season. When they said he couldn't score, he decided to add a mid-range game. When they said that he was a selfish player and only passed to get stats, his point percentage went down, his stats went up. And I think that's special. He was an all-around great player, and I look for that when I look for position players. I think Steph Curry is a shooting guard in a point guard's body, and he's got the sickest handle outside of maybe Allen Iverson ever. He's the best shooter by far, and he'll go down as one of the best offensive players to ever play the game. He's also a very talented passer, but as far as an overall, I wouldn't put him in my top 5. I couldn't. I don't think I wouldn't feel justified doing it.
That's completely fair.
Yeah. So what about shooting guards for you? What do you got?
Shooting guard. this is a little bit, I don't know. I have, of course, for my fifth, right now, I'm going to go. I mean, do you count James Harden as a shooting guard? Is that what you're counting him? Or are you counting as a PG?
Yeah, he would certainly be a combo, but he's more of a shooting guard than Steph Curry's.
I'm gonna put Harden 5 because of what he's changing the game.
Okay. All right. Sure. Okay.
And then I'd go maybe Clyde the Glide.
Yeah. Okay. Clyde the Glide's a good pick. No, I like that pick. That's
3, Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
2, Kobe Bryant. 1, Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan,
Easy.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, I think is.
I mean, you can't argue against like Michael Jordan is.
No.
He's the GOAT.
Yeah, he is the GOAT. I mean, he was an asshole and maybe even a shitty human being.
The biggest shitty human being in the entire world, one of the biggest assholes ever. But
he's
really
a great player.
Fucking talented.
He's a great player, man. And he's
really fucking talented.
He certainly cashed in on his face and brand name. That's for sure. Michael Jordan's easily number 1 for me. Absolutely. Kobe is certainly number 2. That one's not. But my top 3 is the exact same as yours. I'd have a hard time going against Dwayne. All 3 of those guys embody 3 of the greatest scorers of all time, but also 3 of the greatest defenders at their position of all time. People don't realize that Dwayne Wade was more than just jumping the lanes for steals. He was. And remember, he won a title before LeBron came around. When Shaq was at the tail end of his career, or the middle of his career, I guess. Yeah, they rattled off 4 wins in a row in the 06 finals to take down the Mavs, who had a solid team that year.
A really good team.
Yeah, they did, and I don't think people realize just how talented he is. And I'm also really excited to see him. He's hosting a new game show called The Cube on TBS coming out pretty soon. And I'm going to watch that because he always makes me laugh in his commercials. So
you would.
I would.
A game show.
I would indeed. Number 4 for me is a little different. Clyde the Glide. It was unfortunate that he had to play during the same era as Jordan.
Where he was.
Yeah. It's like saying, it's unfortunate Dikembe Mutombo played in the 90s when the Admiral and Ewing and Shaq and, other guys. It's unfortunate they had to play it around the same decade as them. But he did. And I'm going to have to leave him out of my top 5 because my number 4 for shooting guard would actually have to be Steph Curry. I know he's not.
You're putting Curry at shooting guard.
I have to because I feel like that's where he belongs. He's a shooting guard. He is. I mean, if you look, he's the major ball handler in Golden State, but the guy who initiates a lot of the offense through their passing is Draymond Green, and he has for the last 8 years. That's just how it's been. And so, Curry just as I said earlier, and it shames me. It feels so hard to say that. For me, I would have James Harden just because of the monster seasons he continues to have.
Good.
He is good, but I think he'll pass this other guy at some point, and maybe I'll eat my words. These 3 kind of intersect for me. Allen Iverson would be my number 5, honest to God. There's never been a guy we're going to talk about an athlete and a guy there's no guy that's been as big of a competitor as Michael Jordan than Allen Iverson.
True.
The deadliest crossover.
Practice.
I think he actually practiced. I think he just made a big deal about that in the news conference. His problem was he also only had 8 or 9 elite years, just like Chris Webber. Now, granted, he won an MVP, took his team to a finals appearance on his back, by the way. And he did a lot of amazing things, and he did it in a very short time span. A lot of these guys had like 15 years of excellence. His was barely a decade. So that is a lot. It's a knock against him. I think Harden will pass him, but I'd say Iverson for me. Who do you got for your small forwards?
Small forward. This is a little harder for me for some reason. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Scottie Pippen.
Sure.
Julius Erving. Kevin Durant, Larry Bird, LeBron James.
Okay.
In that order. So 5 being Scottie Pippen.
Right. Okay.
I mean, Kevin Durant has to be in the conversation now as a top 3. Like, he has to be.
Right.
And LeBron James is obviously the best of all time now. He's past Larry Bird. He's not the greatest of all time. He's still number 2 in my book, under Michael. But I think the list of top 5 all-time players, it's Michael, LeBron.
Interesting. Okay.
And then
all right.
my, I'll get to the third person on that list.
Yes, at some point. This is certainly a tough one. I mean, number 1's obviously LeBron. Number 2, and who's very close behind, is Larry Bird, who a lot of people could actually say was a point guard in a small forward's body. I mean, just the guy was not an athlete at all. He was basically kind of like Tim Duncan. He had impeccable footwork, and he followed the fundamentals to a T. And his just go back on YouTube and watch the way he shoots.
Dude,
it's so unorthodox, and
it's pretty.
It is pretty. I love it. When I played as a kid, the players that I tried to embody the most, honestly, Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, and this is, nice, Vince Carter were always my top 3. But when I was a little older, my parents got like ESPN Classic on our cable package, and I started seeing Larry Bird play. And I just love the way his shooting mechanics. I just loved it. And I just, he would shoot it from behind the backboard, and his crazy jab steps to the left and then turn around over the right shoulder, and, his fadeaway, and just his signature shots. He's number 2 for me because of everything that he can do, the passing in particular. He was also a great defender. He ruined his back, by the way. He actually had to stop coaching the Pacers all those years ago because he couldn't stand for the entire game.
His back
because
is completely fucked up.
Yeah, he ruined his back because he took tons of charges. He dove for loose balls and things like that. And that was really affected him in the long term. Kevin Durant is obviously number 3, and he might pass Bird at some point because the guy can defend 5 positions, and he's one of the hardest shots to guard ever outside of the sky hook and, a Dirk Nowitzki fadeaway. So that one's tough. And then, to round something like that out, sure, you've got Scottie Pippen. I would certainly throw in there. And then I would consider a guy like Adrian Dantley, possibly Paul Pierce. You could probably convince me on. I think it's a little more open once you get to those guys. But it just depends. So we're running out of time, so I want to move through power forward really quick. Who you got? I think we'll actually probably have similar lists on this one.
Power forward for my 5th. I'm going to do... this is going to be weird. I think you're going to be shocked in my power forward list, actually.
Okay.
So 5th is going to be Kevin Garnett.
Damn, that's
4th,
low. Okay.
I'm going to do Charles Barkley.
Okay, sure.
3rd, Dirk Nowitzki. And the reason I do that is because he completely changed the game as a power forward.
He did. He was revolutionary, for sure.
Yeah, he was. And that international star, he changed the game. 2, Karl Malone. 1, the big fundamental, Tim Duncan.
Yeah, obviously. I mean,
Tim Duncan, 3rd best player of all time, easily. There's nobody else. Honestly, Superman.
They could honest to God make an argument. I've seen there's a guy on YouTube, and I'm going to give him a shout out. God, his fucking name. He has this series called Greatest Ever, where he goes through the 7 or 8 players that have a significant case to make for themselves as the greatest of all time. And he leaves Shaq and Kobe out of it. But Duncan is on there. Larry Bird is on there. Kareem is on there.
I'd leave Shaq Jordan out of that list too.
Yeah, I would. Shaq's certainly up there for centers, but my top 10, I'm going to have to say for this one, is comparable to yours. Number 1 is Duncan by far. The accolades just speak for themselves, and the fact that even when his offensive game started to go because his athleticism deteriorated, he still remained as one of the top 3 best centers in the league, and he still averaged 10 rebounds a game and still made himself relevant. We talked about this on my film podcast, I Don't Give a Flick. We talked about people, we talked about actors who were able to go past their heyday after they were done being stars and stay relevant. We talked about Dan Aykroyd continued to do that, and Morgan Freeman found ways to do that, and so forth. So I would say Duncan for sure, number 1. My number 2 is actually going to be Kevin Garnett. I think that the Timberwolves wasted a lot of his career because they could not put a formidable team around him. Kevin Love had this problem in Minnesota too, his first couple years.
Well, yeah, everybody has that problem in Minnesota.
Sure. Yeah, they do. Another place where dreams go to die. Garnett was an underrated passer out of the post. He had one of the filthiest mid-range games. He was tenacious on the boards. He averaged 25 a game for like 7 straight years. That was unheard of at the time for a power forward. And just, he was an absolute beast. He was an MVP, a defensive player of the year, went to the finals twice. For me, he's just all around. He was number 2. Dirk would follow me at number 3 just because of what he was able to do on the offensive end. He was limited though in a lot of other areas. 4, I don't mean for the mailman to drop that far. I love Karl Malone, and he does deliver on game day.
That's crazy you dropped him.
Gary, does Karl Malone deliver on game day?
Yes, provided that game day is not Sunday or
Correct.
a national holiday.
Yes, very good. Good job, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gary does know who the mailman is, so that's good. Malone is number 2 on the all-time scoring list right now, and there's good reason. He played a long time, and he was very gifted rebounder and scorer. He was a big dude, and he had a fluid mid-range game. Just a sick post-up game, and I loved watching him, and I love watching documentaries on him. He's absolutely. I've actually heard a lot of stuff about him being super nice. Outside of ignoring his kids until they were 18,
he was a douche nozzle.
Yeah, he did not pay attention to his kids for the first 18 years of their life, so that was pretty shitty.
Yeah, doesn't seem like good dude.
Absolutely. And then you can make an argument for Kevin McHale or Elvin Hayes or those guys, but I'm still a kid of the 90s. No, I was about to say I'm still a fan of my man Charles, like the round mound to rebound Sir Charles. Charles Barkley was 6'6", 6'5", but played like a guy 7 foot. He ran like a gazelle in his early years. It was just insane, man. The level of rebounds he got at that size was fucking crazy. Anyways, so that's my top 5. Let's round it out with centers. Who do you got?
This is hard for me, man.
It is a tough one.
So 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put Hakeem Olajuwon.
Damn, you're putting the dream at 5? Are you fucking kidding me?
I
What?
am. Because
Why?
you have to put David Robinson up there at 4.
No, David Robinson was
Yes,
not
you do.
better than Hakeem. All right, we don't have enough time to argue this time, but we'll do it next week. Keep going. All right, David Robinson 4.
3
I
Shaq.
hate this list already.
3 Shaq.
That seems like the whole crux of the show, Johnny.
1 would be.
What was 2?
Or 2, I would say. This is hard because
There's only 2 guys left. Okay.
2 Wilt Chamberlain, 1 Kareem.
I hate your list so much.
Dude,
it's not even funny.
How do you hate this list?
I'm going to tell you. First off, Hakeem Olajuwon is the 2nd greatest center of all time. Maybe the 1st. You can make a case for him being the 1st. Absolutely. How many players win a rebounding title, win defensive player of the year, finals MVP, and season MVP in the same season? It doesn't happen very often.
I understand he had a great season. He's from the University of Houston. I love him. He's a big
Houston boy.
I understand that. He's a Coug. I get it.
He was dominant from 15 years. The guy was dominant. 15.
David Robinson, better player.
David Robinson was not a better player. David Robinson lost to Hakeem in the playoffs numerous times. It wasn't like once or twice or 3 times. It was like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, but David Robinson had nobody around him at that time.
He had a couple of players.
Of role players.
A lot of times when they lost, Clyde the Glide
David
wasn't
Robinson
even on the
was
Rockets.
A beast of a man.
He was a beast of a man, but he's not better than Hakeem Olajuwon. He's not. He's just not. He's not. Hakeem had some of them. His footwork was so fancy. That's just the only word I can think of to describe
David Robinson
fancy.
averaged 30 points in 94, Johnny.
Right. Robinson was also people don't remember how big David Robinson was.
Hakeem was a massive man.
Big, but he was not as strong. He was more of a finesse and a smart player.
Yeah,
like Duncan.
You love the underdog story. I get it. But
it's not that. Kareem's number 1. Kareem is number 1 barely over me for Hakeem, by the way. Only because his shot, and Kareem had such a no center has ever had the success and that length of a career than Kareem did. Kareem's number 1. Hakeem's number 2 for me in that one. If we're going to go down that list, Shaq is 3 because I remember I used to love his early days for his first couple championships in LA and when he played for the Magic with Penny Hardaway. If we're going to go over a career that ended too soon, we're going to talk about Penny Hardaway and Grant Hill, because both those guys were absolute dynamos that could have competed with Jordan in that area had they stayed healthy. Anyways, so obviously, Shaq is certainly number 3 for me. David Robinson, if we're going to go based off of that, David Robinson for me is going to fall to 5. Wilt's going to go to 4. Wilt was just such a huge dude, 7'2", 310. Like,
how did he put Wilt Chamberlain at 4?
Because a lot of his was based off size. And when he played a guy that was much smaller than him and Bill Russell, granted Bill Russell had better teammates for the most part, but they always won. Like, you talk about Hakeem dominating Robinson in the playoffs, Russell owned Chamberlain's ass for like 12 years when they played each other during the, like, out of all the times I went to the finals, like, was it 8 or 9 times, and the Chamberlain won once and Russell won all the other ones. There were a lot of players. I think it's stupid. People are like, oh, there were a bunch of like small guys playing against Chamberlain. No, there weren't. All the other centers were between 6'9" and 7'1". Like, they still had big players back then. Chamberlain was a beast, obviously. 100 points in a game, multiple seasons of 50 points and 25 rebounds. Those are insane numbers. But there were only a couple teams. The pool of players to pull from wasn't as big. So I don't know.
What about your top 5 all-time players?
Michael, LeBron, Duncan, Magic, and Bird, probably. God, really? I love Magic. I love Magic because of how showy he was. I might actually replace Magic with Kareem. I really would. You know what? And I take that back. I take Robinson off that list, and I take that back. Chamberlain moves down to 5. Bill Russell goes to 4. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have disrespected Russ like that.
So mine would be,
what's yours?
Jordan, LeBron, Duncan.
Okay. Sure.
Kareem.
Okay.
And then it's tough for me between Magic Johnson and Kobe.
I think Bird was better than both of them, but you can make a case for either of those guys. They were both. It's tough. It's a tough one. I think our top 4 are pretty even, equal in that. I think our 5th is debatable for sure. And I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Unfortunately, guys, we are all out of time tonight. We ran a little over, but that's totally okay. I love talking sports with main man Nick, and I'm sure the feeling is mutual. Gary, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you
as our
so
Raws
much.
And barely talking, but we appreciate you editing everything.
Yeah,
and
it was my pleasure.
Filling us in on lemon racing
and cheese rolling.
Guys, for all of us here at There's No Crying in Podcasting, I'm Johnny.
I'm Nick.
And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.